Dear students, good morning. You might have seen that some ladies they opt for going for this. They opt when they get pregnant itself. Whereas some ladies they are really scared of having this. They are scared of going for operation theatre as well as they are scared of having an anesthesia. Whereas some ladies in the labor room you might have seen at the end they are crying with the pain and they are saying I want to have this. Exactly. I hope you guessed this one. This is a cesarean section. So today we'll be dealing with the lower segment cesarean section. As usual, we will start our topic with a quote. If you really want to be successful, stop worrying about what you can get and start focusing on what you can do. The quote which was said by Sandeep Maheshwari. Today we'll be dealing with the cesarean section. I think some of the students have got a chance to get into the OT and see this procedure, whereas some I am sorry that you did not get a chance. Hope you will get the chance of seeing a cesarean section in your future. First, we'll see the definition of cesarean section. What do you understand by cesarean section? So, the definition goes like this: it is an operative procedure whereby the fetuses, that it may be a one, it may be a twins, it may be a triplets, after the end of the 28th week are delivered through an incision on the abdominal and the uterine walls. Next, we'll see the incidence of cesarean section. The incidence of cesarean section is now been rising. During the last decade, there has been 2 or 3 fold rise in the incidence, whereas in the initial the rate was very less, it is 10%. But nowadays we can see that the rate of cesarean section is been increasing. The chances are the lady or the obstetrician they doesn't want to take any risk, and nowadays we can see that we have a very small family norm having 1 or 2 children. So there is a reason that none of them want to take a risk when we have an option of having a cesarean section. So we can see that the rate or the incidence of cesarean section is being increased from the previous years. Next, we'll move on to the indication for cesarean section. So, what are the indications where a lady can go for a cesarean section? There are two types, that is absolute indication and relative indication. The indication is the most important thing to have an cesarean section. Just like that, you cannot just cut open the lady to have a cesarean section. Moreover, nowadays because of the insurance, they have certain criteria. So in order to have a cesarean section and where the insurance will be paid for a lady. So as I said you, the indication are broadly divided into two categories, that is absolute and the relative. First, we'll see what are the absolute indication. What do we understand by the word absolute? Absolute means there is no other chance. Absolute. It should be a cesarean section. So the explanation goes like this. The condition are those where the prospect of vaginal delivery, even with aids, even with the help, like even with the forceps or even with the vacuum, is not possible. So these are the indication where it is not possible, then it will go for a absolute cesarean section. For these are the indications. So what are these? They are the central placenta previa, severe degree of contracted pelvis with true conjugate, cervical or broad ligament fibroid, vaginal atresia or vaginal phimosis, or advanced carcinoma cervix. The second indication is an relative indication. So in relative, it can have the lady can have a vaginal delivery either aided or unaided, but they are likely to be more risky to the mother or to the baby. So even though they have they want to have a vaginal delivery, but still there are chances that it may be more risky. So what are the certain risk or the indication which comes under this is cephalopelvic disproportionate. In case of cephalopelvic disproportionate, in severe degree of contracted pelvis, it exactly goes under the absolute indication, whereas if the lady has a minor degree of cephalopelvic disproportionate, then she can have a trial of labor. If the trial of labor, once the trial of labor is given, if the trial of labor fails, then obviously the lady has to be taken for a cesarean section. And the second thing is the termination of the trial of labor is often done before the cervix is fully dilated, either due to the uterine dysfunction or fetal distress. If there is a fetal distress, which you can observe in the CTG, or if you find any uterine dysfunction, that is the contraction and the relaxation of the uterus in the CTG, both there is an abnormal readings, then immediately you have to take the lady for a cesarean section. That is the indication which comes under cephalopelvic disproportionate. And the second thing is the previous uterine scar. If there is a previous uterine scar, the primary cesarean section was done for recurrent indication like contracted pelvis, and the second pregnancy, if you want to undergo a cesarean section, still you can wait, but you should have a very good observation on the uterine scars. And moreover, I have said you in the previous class, if the lady has undergone a cesarean section previously and she want to undergo a vaginal birth after cesarean section, we should be very careful in giving a epidural analgesia, because even though there is a scar rupture, the lady will not be able to know it. So we should have a very good observation of it. And the presence of complicating factors such as malpresentation, antepartum hemorrhage, and if there is a previous 2 C-section, features of scar dehiscence or fetal distress that appear during contemplating vaginal delivery, previous scar following the classical or hysterotomy should be dealt with by a elective operation, whereas myomectomy scar should be dealt with judiciously. So the obstetrician should have a very good decision of taking a lady for a cesarean section, or whether she can able to deliver this lady vaginally. So she should have a very good decision of saving both the mother as well as the baby. So this comes under the relative indication. So it is decided accordingly. And the third one is fetal distress during the first stage of labor. If you find that there is a fetal distress, by continuously monitoring the fetus with the help of a CTG machine, in previously compromised baby or IUGR, hypertensive disorder of pregnancy, post maturity, all these cases you have to make sure there is a fetal distress. And the next one is abnormal uterine contraction. If there is an abnormal uterine contraction, which can also be detected with the help of a CTG machine, and you have already given a trial of labor with the help of oxytocin, you should continuously have an observation on the uterine contraction. And if you find there is an abnormal uterine contraction, then you have to take the lady for a cesarean section. The next indication is antepartum hemorrhage. In antepartum hemorrhage, you can see because of the placenta previa, there may be antepartum hemorrhage. That is, in severe degree of placenta previa, obviously you have to take a lady for a cesarean section. Whereas in lesser degree, when in spite of low rupture of the membrane, the bleeding continues and the fetus is mature enough to survive ex utero, then you can take the lady for cesarean section. And in case of abruptio placenta, the abruptio placenta is a premature separation of the placenta. In early concealed hemorrhage with a mature and living baby, a quick section can save the baby. In unresponsive severe concealed variety, a desperate attempt may have to be done to save the mother. And the next one is malpresentation. In malpresentation, uncorrected or persistent transverse lie, bro or mento posterior are or unequal indication for a cesarean section. Big breech or an average size breech along with the associated complicating factors, especially in primigravida, is also justifiable indication. Caesarean section offers best chance of survival in cord prolapse detected in the first stage. And the next one is, if the lady is having a bad obstetrical history, then it is better to take the lady for caesarean section. Hypertensive disorder, in that acute fulminating preeclampsia not responding to conservative treatment, eclampsia with uncontrolled fits, and the patient is not in labor, then you can take the lady for cesarean section. And the next one is failed surgical induction. If the surgical induction like artificial rupture of membrane, and you can wait for at least 12 hours and still the lady is not having a labor pain, if it is a failed surgical induction, then you can take the lady for a cesarean section. The next one is elderly primi gravida. If the lady is elderly primi associated with complicating factors, then she can be taken for a cesarean section. And the final one is a medical gynecological disorders, that is if the lady is having like comorbidities like chronic hypertension, diabetes, heart disease, pelvic tumors, and vaginal atresia. All these are the indication to post the lady for a cesarean section. Next we'll see what are the common indications. So common indication, we have already seen the absolute and the relative indication. Mainly the common indications in primi gravida and multigravida. In primi gravida, cephalopelvic disproportion and contracted pelvis, abnormal uterine contraction and fetal distress. Whereas in multigravida, post cesarean pregnancy, placenta previa and malpresentation. These are the common indication for cesarean section. Next, we will see the contraindications. So, what are the contraindications for not having a cesarean section? First one is dead fetus. The second one is the baby is too premature to survive ex utero. Presence of blood coagulation disease. Next, we will see the time of operation. So, it is divided into two, that is the elective cesarean section and emergency C-section. I hope all of you have know what is the difference between the elective cesarean section and emergency cesarean section. Elective cesarean section is a planned cesarean section. So, it is planned beforehand itself that she will undergo a cesarean section, maybe because of the two previous C-section or high risk pregnancy, or it may be included with any comorbidities, and the doctor has already advised her that she will go for a cesarean section. It is already planned the date and the time for cesarean section. So, it is usually planned at 39 to 40 weeks, and based on the condition of the patient, it is planned. Anyway, any planned case is called as a elective cesarean section. Whereas in emergency C-section, it is emergency. It is at any time. You are taking a lady for a cesarean section. There have been any obstetrical emergency, like they may be APH, they may be cord prolapse, fetal distress, obstructed labor. So, any time at the time of emergency, you are taking a lady rushing into the operation theatre, then you are considering it as an emergency cesarean section. So, that is the difference between the elective cesarean section and emergency cesarean section. Whereas in elective cesarean section, the lady is planned, she comes to an OPD and directly she can go to an antenatal ward where she is prepared, and then she is directed to the OT. It is planned beforehand. Whereas even though in a planned cesarean section, you have to do a CTG reading before sending a lady to an OT. Whereas in emergency C-section, the lady is transferred from the labor room directly to the OT, then it is considered as an emergency C-section. Next slide is about the types of cesarean section with incidence. So, the types of cesarean section are lower uterine segment cesarean section. It's a large that nowadays all of them perform a lower uterine segment cesarean section, 98.8%. The next one is classical upper segment, 0.02 percentage. Cesarean hysterectomy, 0.18%. Extra peritoneal lower segment operation, which is not done. So, these are the types of cesarean section with the incidence. Next, we will see the procedure, that is the lower segment cesarean section and classical. First, we will see what is lower segment cesarean section. Lower segment cesarean section, In this operation, the extraction of the baby is done through an incision which is made in the lower segment through a transperitoneal approach. Next, we see what is classical cesarean section. In classical cesarean section, in this operation, the baby is extracted through an incision made in the upper segment of the uterus. The operation is only done under the forced circumstances. So, before they were doing the operation in the classical method, but nowadays we can see most of the operation are done in the lower segment cesarean section unless there is a need for doing a classical cesarean section. So, the difference is the lower and the classical is in lower segment cesarean section, the incision is done in the lower uterine segment, whereas in classical cesarean section, the incision is done in the upper uterine segment. So, why they have to go for a classical cesarean section? So, the reason is the lower segment, when the lower segment approach is difficult, that is, it may be due to a dense adhesion, there may be a formation of adhesion due to the previous abdominal operation. So, it is difficult to have a lower segment cesarean section, and severe contracted pelvis with the pendulous abdomen, then they go for a classical cesarean section. And the second reason is lower segment approach is risky. Why it is risky? The reason may be there will be a big fibroid on the lower segment, blood loss, and contemplating myomectomy may end up in hysterectomy. That's the reason. And if there is a carcinoma of the cervix, to prevent the dissemination of the growth and the post-operative sepsis, and if there is a repair of difficult and high VVF, that is vesico-vaginal fistula, and severe degree of placenta previa with the engorged vessels in the lower segment. And the third reason is post-mortem section contemplating to have a live baby. So, these are the various reasons where you have to go for a lower segment where you have to go for a classical cesarean section instead of having a lower segment cesarean section. Next, we'll see about the pre-operative preparation. What you have to do as a pre-operative preparation for a lady. So, in case of emergency, you have to be very fast to prepare the patient and shift the lady for a cesarean section, including and filling all the paperwork. So, in pre-operative preparation, the consent is the foremost thing which you have to take from the lady. She has to sign for a cesarean section, including her husband as a witness for the cesarean section. So, in pre-operative preparation, it is done same as the other abdominal operation, as same like laparotomy. You have to prepare the patient for cesarean section. If the lady has admitted for the elective cesarean section, then she has to be NPO for at least 12 hours. So, from the night till the next day morning, at least for 8 to 12 hours she should be NPO. And if she is for a trial of labor, still the lady has to be kept for an NPO with an option of having a cesarean section. So, pre-medication can be given, that is Ranitidine 150 mg is given orally night before the surgery, and it is repeated in the morning with 50 mg IM or IV injection 1 hour before the surgery to raise the gastric pH. And it is also included with the metoclopramide 10 mg IV is given to increase the tone of the lower esophageal sphincter as well as to reduce the stomach contents. So, these two injections usually is ordered prior to the surgery. And the stomach should be emptied, and that is she has to be kept NPO, and the bladder should be emptied by you have to insert a Foley's catheter. Foley's catheter to be inserted before shifting the lady for a operation theatre. And FHS should be checked, that is one reading of 20 minutes CTG has to be there, and it has to be handed over to the OT nurse. And the next one is anesthesia. If the lady is going for a planned cesarean section or the elective cesarean section, she has to consult the anesthetist, and the anesthetist will have a examination of the lady, and then he will he will explain regarding the anesthesia, and a separate consent has to be taken for the anesthesia. So the anesthesia is usually for cesarean section, it may be spinal anesthesia, epidural, or general anesthesia. Any anesthesia can be applied, so it depends upon the condition and the comorbidities the patient is having. So it is decided by the anesthetist and the obstetrician what anesthesia will be given for a lady. And the next one is the position of the patient. The positioning of the patient is placed in the dorsal position in susceptible cases to minimize any adverse effect of vena cava compression. A 50-degree tilt to her left using a sandbags can be given till the delivery of the baby is beneficial. So the incision is put faster, and then the baby is delivered within 5 to 10 minutes, whereas the suturing takes a long time. So it has to be done regarding the position of the patient. After positioning, then you have an antiseptic painting. In antiseptic painting, the abdomen is painted with 7.5% of povidone iodine solution or Savlon lotion, followed by the spirit, and to be properly draped with a sterile towel. This is how they are painting. Nowadays we get advanced where you can sterilize the area by the povidone solution. And the next one is the incision of the abdomen. A vertical infraumbilical midline or paramedian incision is usually employed. The incision extends from about 2.5 centimeters below the umbilicus to the upper border of the symphysis pubis. This is the incision you are going to they are going to perform. The next one is packing. So the Doyne's retractor is introduced. I hope you have seen this Doyne's retractor. It is there in the lab. So the Doyne's retractor is introduced. The peritoneal cavity is now packed off using a 2 tape large swabs. The tape ends are attached to the artery forceps. This will minimize the spilling of the uterine contents into the general peritoneal cavity. Next is the delivery of the head. In delivery of the head, the membranes are ruptured if still intact. If the membrane has already ruptured, then it is not necessary. The blood mixed amniotic fluid is sucked out by the sucker. The Doyne's retractor is removed, so the head is delivered by hooking the head with the fingers. As the head is drawn to the incision line, the assistant is to apply pressure on the fundus. If the head is jammed, an assistant may push up the head by a sterile gloved finger introduced into the vagina. The head can also be delivered using the Wrigley's forceps. After the delivery of the head, you have a delivery of the trunk. As soon as the head is delivered, the mucus from the mouth, pharynx and nostril is to be sucked out using a rubber catheter attached to an electric sucker. After the delivery of the shoulder, you can give an intravenous injection. Methergine 0.2 mg is administered. The rest of the body is delivered slowly, and the baby is placed in the tray, which is placed in between the mother's thigh with the head tilted down for gravitational drainage, and you have to clamp the cord and then cut the cord. If then the baby is handed over to the nurse. The next one is the removal of the placenta and the membrane. By this time, the placenta is likely to be separated. The placenta is extracted by traction on the cord, with simultaneously pushing the uterus towards the umbilicus per abdomen using the left hand by a controlled cord traction. Routine manual removal should not be done. Aftercare. First 24 hours, the patient is observed meticulously for at least 6 to 8 hours. So, immediately after the cesarean section, the patient will be posted to a post-operative room where she will be observed. In some hospitals, the observation is for 2 hours in most of the hospital, whereas in some hospitals, they usually keep even for 12 hours, and they shift the lady next day to a in the postpartum ward. So, in the post-operative room, she should have a periodic checkup of blood pressure, that is vital signs has to be checked according to the protocol of the hospital, and also the IV fluid. The fluid 5% dextrose or ringer lactate drip is continued until at least 2 to 2.5 liters, or usually they give 100 ml per hour or 125 ml per hour, so that each bottle will go for 4 hours. It has to be monitored properly. And also they can also if the patient is anemic, the blood transfusion is helpful in an anemic mother for a speedy post-operative recovery. Blood transfusion is required if the blood loss is more than an average. Usually the blood loss during the time of cesarean section will be 500 to 1 liter of blood loss will be there. If it is more than that, and if the lady had a history of an antepartum hemorrhage, then the blood transfusion has to be done. And also you can give injection methotrexate 0.2 mg intramuscularly, or we can see nowadays they give injection oxytocin IM, and also you can see that some obstetrician prefer injection oxytocin along with the IV fluids in the post operative period. And also prophylactic antibiotic is usually prescribed parenterally for the first 48 hours, and analgesic in the form of pethidine. As the lady will be having a severe pain in the after the operation, usually 75 to 100 mg of injection pethidine SOS can be given as per the doctor's order. And the next one is the ambulation. The patient can sit on the bed or even get out of the bed to evacuate the bladder. Usually the patient will be shifted to a post-operative ward with the Foley's catheter. In the next, as per the doctor's order, the next day the Foley's catheter will be removed. So before the removal of the Foley's catheter itself, she can ambulate. After 12 hours, she can just sit on the side of the bed, and then she can just dangle her feet and sit for 5 minutes. Take a deep breath for 10 breaths per minute. She can dangle her feet, and then she can move, or she can walk up till the washroom. And later on, once the Foley's catheter is removed, she has to ambulate and go to the washroom to pass urine. So this has to be done. Exercise following the cesarean section. So the exercise, if the patient is a planned cesarean section, before itself she should be taught some exercise, or teaching in the OPD has to be given. Follow what exercise she can perform following a cesarean section. The foot and the leg exercise has to be started as soon as possible, especially after the epidural anesthesia, as the distal circulation will be specially sluggish. I hope that you all know what are the postnatal exercise has to be given for the patient in vaginal delivery as well as a cesarean section. This may be followed by a deep breathing exercise, as well as if a general anesthesia has been given, the mother may need to be taught how to clear the secretion by coughing in a sitting position with the suture supported by both the hands or pillow. Deep breathing and huffing will help to loosen the secretion. Deep breathing exercise, coughing exercise where she has to support her stitches has to be taught to the lady, and pelvic tilting and very gentle modified knee rolling will ease the flatulence that may mother experiences. Pelvic floor exercise are still important following a cesarean section. Adequate rest is very essential, and she has to initiate a breastfeeding to the baby. And on the second day, oral feeding in the form of plain or electrolyte water or raw tea may be given. Slight abdominal discomfort due to intestinal paresis may be observed, which however passes off spontaneously with the appearance of the intestinal peristalsis by the end of the day. And on the third day, so your the diet pattern will go from initially after surgery she will be NPO, only there will be a intravenous fluid. After that she will go for a liquid diet, that is a clear diet. Then she will go for a soft diet, and finally she will go for a normal diet. And on the third day she can go for a light solid diet of the patient's choice is given. Bowel is kept emptied, and if not spontaneously moved, then you can then the doctor will prescribe 4 to 6 teaspoon of milk of magnesia is given at a bedtime. and so it will be continuous on the 4th, 5th and 6th or 7th day. On 6th or 7th day, the abdominal skin stitches are to be removed on the 6th or the 7th days. Nowadays we can see that the stitches are which is not removed, it is a absorbable type. Even if there is a knot on the either on the side, then the patient is called to the OPD on the 6th day. Usually most some of the hospital, they keep the lady after cesarean section till for 1 week, that is till 7th day. But in some of the hospital, the cesarean section lady will be discharged on the 3rd day, and if necessary, she will be called after a week for a follow-up checkup, or else she can visit the OPD after 45 days. And on the discharge will be done if there is a removal of stitch. On the next day of removal of stitch, the lady can be discharged, and if not if not, on the 3rd day the lady can be discharged, depending upon the hospital policies, the protocols and the type of sutures they apply. So based on this, the lady will be planned for the discharge. And on the day of the discharge, all the discharge medication and what exercise has to be done at home, what's the diet pattern, the normal diet usually she can take, as well as how she has to breastfeed the baby, and the care of newborn baby has to be taught, and what medication she has to take at home. All these things has to be explained to the patient, as well as her husband or the relatives at the time of discharge. So the discharge is a happier moment for the couples to be home along with their newborn baby. So now we'll see the complications. So what are the complications for the cesarean section? So the complication under maternal and fetal. First we'll see the maternal complication. The first one is hemorrhage, that is 20%. During the procedure, the primary and the secondary PPH can happen. The broad ligament hematoma, shock can happen. Blood loss in cesarean section is on an average 300 to 500 ml. Placental blood and wound twice than that in the normal delivery. Paralytic ileus is seldom encountered. Anesthetic, under that there may be a chance of aspiration, pneumonitis, cardiac arrest or death may also happen. These are the anesthetic complications. So some of the ladies are really scared of having anesthesia. Next one is infection. There are chance of pyrexia, wound infection, peritonitis, ileus, septic shock, urinary tract infection can be seen as an infection as a complication of cesarean section. Next one is leg venous thrombosis can happen. That's why the ambulation is very important after the cesarean section. Even when you post the lady for a cesarean section, better to send her with a stockings. So it is very beneficial to have a stockings to avoid such complications. And remote gynecological complications are like menstrual disorders can be seen, chronic pelvic pain, infertility, scar endometriosis, vesicovaginal fistula, pelvic adhesions, obstruction due to adhesions, failing lactation, and systemic, that is anemia, ill health. These are the certain complications which you can see after the cesarean section. And in the fetal complication, it is said that there is an increased incidence of respiratory distress syndrome compared to those newborns who are delivered vaginally. So these are the various complications which you can see because of the lower segment cesarean section. Finally, we'll see the maternal and the perinatal mortality. So maternal, the causes of death are maybe due to the hemorrhage and shock, anesthetic hazard, pulmonary embolism and peritonitis. The mortality rate of fetus may be due to asphyxia, RDS, respiratory distress syndrome, prematurity, infection and intracranial hemorrhage. Finally, we have come to an end of this topic. I hope now you know regarding the cesarean section. Today we have seen the definition of the cesarean section, the incidence, the indication, that is the absolute and the relative indication of cesarean section. We have seen the contraindication of cesarean section, the time of operation, that is elective and emergency, the difference between elective and emergency, and we have seen about the types of cesarean section, that is lower segment cesarean section, which is all commonly called as LSCS, classical or upper segment cesarean section. These are the two important ways where they perform a cesarean section, and we have seen why they have to go for classical cesarean section compared to the lower segment cesarean section. We have seen how you have to prepare a lady for a cesarean section, that is the pre-operative preparation, and then how they are delivering the head of the baby, the trunk, and the removal of the placenta and the membrane, aftercare of the patient in the post-operative ward, and later on in the postnatal ward, and finally we have seen what are the exercise she has to perform, and what are the complication of cesarean section, that is what complication can be faced by the mother, the complication which can be faced by the baby, and also the maternal and the perinatal mortality, what are the causes for the maternal and perinatal mortality. So that's about the cesarean section. It's the procedure. I hope you understand regarding the cesarean section. So thank you.